Recently, I had a client who wanted to build this orbit animation within their site, and they needed help on how to do it on Framer. So I decided to shoot a video on how you can do it with no code, and honestly, it takes less than 10 minutes. Welcome to the second video on my channel. My name is Fikri, I'm a product designer and a Framer expert. Before we get started on how to build it, let me walk you through the current setup. So right now this is a component on my page. It doesn't really need to be a component. The only reason I have it as a component is to work on it in isolation. But if you open this component, you have these circles. Each one of them is a frame and all of them are in absolute position. So you can notice here, absolute, and it's centered within my parent frame. And then the first one only has the logo inside. So it has a flex position and it's centering the logo within it. And then the rest of them are the exact same structure, but different than the one in the middle. So all of them are basically a frame with 100% radius. And then you have a div within this frame. And this div is also an absolute, and it's positioned to be to the right or to the bottom of the frame, depending on where do you want the initial position of your logo or icon or image to be. Framer, you're not allowed to add effects on or SVG paths. So when you want to animate an image, whether it's for appear or rotation or whatever effect you want to apply, you have to wrap it within a frame. So this frame only is purely for wrapping the image within it and applying the effect on the frame. And you can see that I can just position this at the very top or to the right, wherever you want really. And you will notice that you need to push it a bit beyond the right or left or top or bottom, so that it would have half the image within the circle and the other half is outside. So it would be centered on that border of the circle. And the same goes for the rest, but here I have two, for example, within this one. So this one is at the bottom, the other one is at the top. And this is the same structure for the biggest one as well. They're not technically within each other. Each circle is independently positioned within the frame. They're not wrapped within each other. This one is also doesn't wrap them in any way. There's no flex position. They're just, absolute in there. You can do it in a more dynamic way for responsiveness, but honestly, for my use case, I don't really need to have it be anything other than absolute. So first, you're gonna paste the logo in the middle. Could be whatever you want, could be an SVG, an image, whatever you want really. And then I'm gonna go for Command Enter. And Command Enter in Framer, when you're selecting any element, wraps that element within a frame. I don't need a color for that frame. So now I have this frame wrapping the image. Let's call this circle 0. And let's have this center the image within it. And then maybe we give it some padding and we change this to fit so that the size would change based on the padding and the image in the middle. And then I'm gonna give it a border of blue 40, whatever you want really. And I want this circle to look like it's a bit elevated, so I'm gonna also give it some shadow blue and maybe a bit more blur. Maybe I want this to be more like 20. Okay. And then we're gonna go for a radius of 100% to turn it into a circle. Maybe we go for a thicker border. Maybe have this be at 3. 2 is fine. Let's make it a bit bigger. You can actually go for fix. Again, it's up to you. It's just the concept. And we also want to have the circle in the center to have this effect of, glowy blue from the center. Let's give it a try. So we're gonna go for a radial gradient, and we want the center to have this blue color, and around it we want to have nothing basically, but let's go for this color and then have it be at 0. Let's make the radius a bit smaller. No. Go for slightly bigger. Maybe move this here. Okay, I'm fine. Looks good to me. Let's get to the second circle. So then I'm gonna create the same thing. So I'm gonna create this circle and I also want this circle to be independent from this one. So I have this here, all centered. Do not want a color for this one, so you remove the fill. Then the radius 100%. Border of 2, maybe white 20. No, 14. 12. Yeah, that's good. Okay. And then we have, let's make it perfect number. Okay. Okay. So we have about 60 pixels between these two circles. So let's try to keep the same ratio as we grow the circles around it or the orbits around it. So we're going to create a new one and have it be plus 60. Have it be centered as well. And for this one, we want the same styling as that one without the inner border, just like that. I don't think we did this right. It was only 30, so we want to add another 30. Okay, looks better. And then we want, again, this frame, want it so much bigger. So let's match it to the biggest circle and then add, is it matched? And then add another 60. Yeah, I think I know what I'm doing wrong. It's not 60, it's 180, because there's 60 here, 60 there, 60 there, 60 there. It's my mistake. So another 60. Yeah, and now we have the full circles. Okay, and preview this here. You got it. Now let's add the logos inside each circle of them. So as I showed you earlier, this is technically a frame, so I can add something within that frame. So I'm gonna get my images and then try to see where do I want the initial position of each logo to be on this orbit. So we have the images here. Let's go for this one. I'm gonna add this one here, exactly to the right. Now, as we said, I want this to be more centered. So I think it's more or less centered at the moment on the line. And of course, it's not showing because the default state for frames on Framer is that the overflow is hidden. But for all of them right now, we want them to be visible. That's good. And the second thing is, as you can see, the line, the border here is overriding the image. So I want to make sure that my image has a Z index to put it higher than the border. So first, I'm gonna wrap this into a div. And again, as I said earlier, the only reason I'm doing this into a div is just to be able to animate it later, to add effects on it. But first, let's add a higher Z index. See? Just that. Okay, and then let's call this logo. Now let's add more logos to the second orbit. So maybe we can just duplicate this logo div, add it here. I don't want this to be a stack. Okay, so I want this to be at the top center. Also, I want it to be more centered. Now let's add the Google there. Okay. Make sure that this is fitting the size. I don't really like that the Google Cloud logo has a space in the middle, so maybe we just give its wrapper a fill of the background color. It's not the cleanest fix, but it works. And then let's recreate this, but this time add it at the bottom. Again, okay. So this one here. It doesn't look great, but that's fine. And then the last thing would be adding the last logo. Maybe here. Oh. Here. No. maybe the center left. Okay, so we have this here. Let's move our logo, just remove this, make sure it's in the middle. Okay, so now we have the structure of it. Now we have how it looks. Of course, nothing's happening. So let's think through our animation. The way it should work, the way we're expecting it to work, is that each one of them starts to rotate. And as they rotate, a very important detail in this animation is that the logos are not flipped upside down. I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So each circle of these is practically a frame with these logos positioned in an absolute position on top of it. So you can even try rotating this and it would rotate. So that's more or less what we want to do, but not exactly. So that's the first step, right? We have to give it an effect of loop. And loop basically means that it will continue to do this forever. And I want the scale to remain at 1 and the rotation to be 360. I want it to rotate 360 degrees, and then I can preview. Great, so that's the first step. We want it to be way slower. Let's go for 10 seconds. Okay, that's better. Okay, now let's copy the same effect to the rest of the circles to see how it goes. You can just go copy effects. This is the best feature in Framer. And you can do the same to all of them. We don't really need to rotate the one in the middle. Okay, so now all of them are rotating. But you see, the biggest problem here now is that the logos also are going upside down. And the way you can avoid this is actually a very simple trick. So these are currently rotating 360 degrees. You want the logos to be rotating in the exact opposite direction with the exact opposite speed. So it will look like this. Let's go for all logos and give them an effect of loop. We want them to rotate with minus 360 with a transition of 10 seconds. Whatever you do to the bigger circle, you have to match the same time and the same animation transition style for the logos, just to make sure they rotate exactly in the exact opposite direction in the exact duration. Then you can preview this, and now it works. You know, it's very funny because it's only tricking your eyes. They're technically rotating, but you're not really noticing it. So you can test it with a very simple thing by having this be 5 seconds, for example. And now you can see that they're just rotating. If you change the outer circles to 5 seconds, it will transition smoothly as well. Okay, so go back. Yeah, so our animation is currently done. Let's try to add a bit of spice to it by appear animation. So we can begin with having this appear. Once it appears, it basically fades in. I think I'm just gonna leave it to the default settings. No, let's make it a bit slower. Maybe have this be 63.4. Yeah, that's good. Now we're gonna take the same appear animation and apply it to the rest. Oh, but I don't wanna copy and paste at the moment. And the different thing here would be is that you would give a different delay to each one of them so that it would have this progressive appear animation. So let's start from the second one and give it something like 0.3. This one, add 3 on top of that. The last one, add another 3, so it would be 9. Here you have it, an orbit animation. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I've enjoyed working on it, and please let me know if you want me to create anything else on Framer, and I'll do that in the next video. And don't forget to subscribe to get all the updates, and like this video if you actually like this video.